The United States has issued another warning to Iran about missiles along the Persian Gulf. That story leads this Sunday's World News Update. Iran intends to place silkworm missiles along the Strait of Hormuz that could endanger shipping in the area since the strait is considered a strategic waterway. White House Chief of Staff Howard Baker says Iran would run the risk of retaliation if the missiles are deployed. The White House claims Iran has been sent warnings about the missiles through various channels. In Greensboro, North Carolina, a Ku Klux Klan rally has ended peacefully. This is the first Klan rally in 8 years there. 5 communists were killed when the Klan marched through Greensboro in 1979. 4 people were arrested, one of them for firing a starting pistol at the marchers. And the White House is hinting it may ease trade sanctions against Japan. The president imposed tariffs on Japanese TVs and other goods in April in retaliation for computer chip dumping. NBC Nightly News will have more on these stories following our newscast.
The Ada County Taxpayer Association is saying it's had enough. The group is calling for drastic changes in the way education is funded. Idaho at 5's Jake Putnam reports they want to fund education with a sales tax rather than property taxes.
$892,000 supplemental levy in Meridian goes down in defeat. Meridian property owners have sent the message that they've had enough. The Ada County Taxpayers Association say the tax structure is unfair and that property owners are carrying more than their fair share. After last Tuesday's election, the group will take their fight to the 1988 legislature. They want education funded from sales tax.
The situation will continue to get worse, and they must accept the fact that education must be funded. But the people say they do not want to fund it anymore from the property tax. They want it funded from the broad-based sales tax.
The lobby group says property tax is unfair to Idaho's rural population.
The typical farmer on 120 acres, with his machinery, his improvements, and his land, for this levy that was just defeated, would have cost him about $315 a year extra in taxes. He can't stand that today.
State Senate Pro Tem Jim Risch says the idea needs some work, but it has its merits.
If they have to pay a tax, which obviously we do to fund government services, they prefer the sales tax to the property tax. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have seen over these recent years a really major shift in Idaho already away from property taxes.
The plan is a bold one, but the Ada County Taxpayer Group thinks that they have the support. They're planning a meeting with the Ada County legislators later this month to get the ball rolling. Jake Putnam, Idaho at 5.
Up next in Idaho at 5, a stormy forecast.
And the NBA playoffs, game number 3, will tell you what happened after this.
You're watching Channel 7 in Boise, Idaho's news channel. This is the News Center 7 Evening Report with Dave Eckert and Dee Sarton. Sports with Mark Johnson, and Idaho's weather reported by Rick Lance.
Good evening. Dave Eckert has the night off. And in tonight's news, Claude Dallas will stand trial for escaping from prison. That is the decision of a 4th District judge today. Dallas was back in the courtroom this morning, and News Center 7's Catherine Carboni was there. She joins us now on the set. And exactly what did happen in court today, Catherine?
Well, Dee, the judge decided that there is enough evidence to put Claude Dallas on trial for escaping from prison. Looking at that evidence, it's not hard to establish that Dallas did, in fact, break out of the state penitentiary. In spite of that, Dallas is going to plead not guilty to the escape charge. It was Easter Sunday, 1986, when convicted killer Claude Dallas made his infamous prison break, cutting through 2 chain-link fences to escape the Idaho State Penitentiary. Although this may look like an open and shut case, Dallas's attorney says his client will plead not guilty to escape charges.
There's only one defense to the escape charge that's recognized in law, and that defense is the defense of duress or necessity, that a person who escapes has a reason to leave that would be justified under the law.
Churchill says Dallas had a reason to break out. He won't say what that reason is, but he will say it has to do with the tight security on Dallas in prison.
At this time, I'm not at liberty to say. It just depends on what kind of evidence we are able to uncover in our investigation in his defense.
Do you feel that Dallas was treated unfairly or wrongly inside by the administration?
We hope to show that.
Oh,
Dallas being treated unfairly, that's garbage. Everybody's got to have a defense for something, and Claude Dallas has gone through the fence. He escaped, and I picked that to be his defense about 2 months ago. So I would say you have to defend something, and that's about the only one I could think of.
Murphy says, if anything, Dallas should have been under closer supervision. Now he is. Dallas has been in maximum security since he returned to the state prison last March. Dallas is considered an escape risk, but prison officials insist he's treated exactly the same as every other maximum security prisoner. Now, Dallas's trial will begin probably sometime late this summer. If he is convicted on escape charges, that'll add 5 years to his sentence.
How long could a trial like this go, Kathy?
Well, you'd think it would go really fast,
Yeah.
but his attorney says he's going to present quite a bit of testimony, and he expects the thing to last 5 days.
Interesting. Thanks a lot. In other news today, the chief meteorologist at the National Weather Service says the rain we've had the last few days is taking the edge off the drought, but it certainly has not cured the problem. News Center 7's Steve Otteson is in the newsroom to tell us about an alternative. If the rain isn't going to come and solve things for us, apparently there's a farming technique that saves water. Tell us more, Steve.
Dee, you might call it lazy man's farming. You don't irrigate as often, you don't plow the soil, and you reap more profit. This field of corn hasn't been tilled and hasn't been irrigated this year. Normally, it would be powder dry. The soil contains 70 to 80% of its moisture capacity in what's considered a drought year.
And the reason it's holding moisture so well is due to his tillage method.
The tillage method is called no-till farming. The owner simply mows what's left of the old crop and leaves the residue to cover the soil. The clippings retain moisture, prevent erosion, and more importantly,
he saved money not having to irrigate. He saved his water from his water rights, and also he saved a lot in fuel expenses from not having to make trips over the field, disking and planting, etc.
And he also gets more yield per acre. Makes you wonder why more farmers aren't using no-till farming in such a dry year.
You know, like the first time you learned how to drive a car, until you felt comfortable with it, you know, it was difficult for you. This is something that you've got to learn how to adapt to your own farming operation.
Kendrick says that can be expensive, especially when you can't afford the equipment to change. This method also works for your lawn. If you leave the grass clippings on the lawn, you retain moisture, that is, so you don't have to water as often. It's something to keep in mind. Dee?
I'll remember that, Steve. Thank you very much. State crews have cleared the mudslide that's been blocking Highway 30 near Hagerman. The slide contributed to a 3-car accident. The hillside near Thousand Springs gave way following a storm that dumped more than an inch of rain on the area. Authorities say 55-year-old Glenn Howell of Twin Falls struck a pickup truck when he tried to drive through the mud. Howell's vehicle then slammed into a station wagon on the other side of the highway. All 4 people involved in the accident were taken to local hospitals with minor injuries. Howell has been charged with drunk driving. This is the 3rd mudslide in that area in the past 5 years. Here in Boise, it's going to be at least 1 week before Fairview and 23rd Streets are back to normal. A wooden pipe broke this weekend, flooding Fairview Avenue as well as surrounding businesses. Crewmen have already replaced a large section of pipe, but to prevent further accidents, they're going to replace another 800 feet. Starting tomorrow, 1 lane will be closed to make room for construction that will most likely cause some traffic backup.
With Fairview being obviously a major artery, there's going to be some traffic restriction. Whenever you have a 5-lane street cut down to 4, we're going to try and do our best to minimize that impact, but there certainly will be some restriction.
Highway officials have some simple advice for all of us. Avoid the area until construction is completed sometime next week. The Idaho State Police are investigating why a semi-truck clipped a westbound car on Interstate 84 this afternoon. The car ended up in the median near the Orchard exit. The driver of the car had to be cut from the wreckage. Police say the unidentified woman was transported to a local hospital with neck and back injuries. The accident is still under investigation and no citations have been issued. Still ahead on the evening report, we'll tell you how the Idaho State Prison is dealing with the deadly disease AIDS. And Idaho will soon be getting some national attention. We'll tell you where and when next. An inmate at the Idaho State Penitentiary is infected with the AIDS virus, but he does not have any symptoms of the disease. Corrections Director Al Murphy says that man will not be identified or isolated.
You know, we've done enough on education that I feel comfortable that people know what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. And I don't think this is a significant problem, not one that we ought to take extraordinary measures on right now.
The AIDS-infected inmate was discovered through the prison's informal AIDS testing program. 1/3 to 1/2 of the inmates have been tested, but there is no plan to start mandatory testing of all prisoners. An inmate who actually shows symptoms of AIDS would be segregated for medical treatment. Drug myths may be America's #1 killer. That's what nationally known drug counselor Dr. Michael Myers told a conference in Napa today. He says even with the publicity surrounding the deaths of Len Bias and Don Rogers, 174 people died in the U.S. from drug overdoses in the 9 days between the two deaths.
The coroner's survey said that not one of these other people were rock stars, athletes, multimedia hits. The average age was 33. They were white males with jobs. So whether people are going to hear that this can affect them or that they're too invincible is very difficult to say.
Dr. Myers says the most effective way to get people off drugs is intervention. Family and friends must recognize the problem and confront it. And on News Center 7 Tonight Report at 10, Dr. Myers has some new warnings about the new marijuana. You may be spending as much as 31% more to do your banking. That's what Idaho Consumer Affairs Incorporated says. At this news conference, the Consumer Watchdog Group released its 3rd Idaho Bank Survey. And as in the past, this year's results indicate it's costing you more each year for a checking account. Their advice, shop around to save money.
We have found great cooperation by the banks in conducting the survey, in disclosing to us their information. So we believe that in most instances, most consumers, by simple phone calls, could contact the banks and savings and loans that are available in the area to at least conduct a survey for themselves as to what meets their criteria at a particular time.
Cornfink's competition is spawning the higher checking account charges, but he points out not all is bad. Out of the 12 states surveyed, Idaho's charges for returned checks is the second lowest, averaging $9.89. The USA Today Buscapade has arrived in Idaho. The 6-month, 50-state bus tour will attempt to present an accurate reflection of the nation. The first stop in Idaho was the State House to interview Governor Cecil Andrus. News Center 7's Jake Putnam caught up with the Buscapade at the State House.
The USA Buscapade has been on the road since March. Today's stop was the State House and an interview with the governor. The Buscapade, its reporters, and USA Chairman Alan Newhart are on assignment reporting the mood of the country, interviewing everyone from governors to mechanics.
Well, we hope that by covering all 50 states the way we are and featuring the states in USA Today twice a week, that people will develop a little better understanding of the whole country and people in the various sections of the country. I think that's happening.
At first look, the Buscapade may look like a vacation on wheels, but that's not the case.
It's just work. When we get to a place, we'll match up reporters with photographers, and they'll scan out across the towns and get different voices and interviews with different people.
Is it fun?
Oh, yeah, very much so, yeah.
You wouldn't find Lee Iacocca on the assembly line of Chrysler, but Newhart is taking an active part in the operation.
I'm back here writing and reporting, and that's what the news and information business is all about. So for me, that's a lot of fun.
The bus tour still has 25 states to go and should complete the trip in September. From here, the USA bus tour heads to Twin Falls. From there, they'll go to Pocatello and then on to Wyoming. Jake Putnam, News Center 7.
We are, of course, getting some welcome rain for our area's farmers and irrigators tonight, not to mention those of you with green grass that you'd like to keep that way. But that stormy weather is causing some big problems throughout the city tonight. At this point, Idaho Power spokesmen say some 1,200 Boise customers are without power. This is the hardest area hit near East Pennsylvania Avenue on Boise's east side. Strong winds have knocked down a major feeder line carrying 12,000 volts to some 200 customers here. Power crews may need up to 3 hours to get the power back on. Fire crews were on the scene just a few minutes ago because it was feared the down line could threaten nearby houses. The power outage problem is also extending into the downtown area and other customers along Amity Road and the Warm Springs area. Those places could have their power restored shortly. Besides wind gusts in excess of 50 miles an hour, there were also some heavy rains. Parts of Owyhee and Canyon counties received more than an inch of rain in just a matter of minutes. But sheriff's dispatchers there report no major flooding, only some sharp jumps in stream flows. Now, Rick was telling us on Idaho at 5 to be very aware of the possibility of some flash flooding. How are things looking out there, Rick, now?
Some real active weather for this evening, Dee, and it's all moving up from the south. It's thunderstorm cells that are moving through. By the way, you have the windows rolled up in your car yet?
No, not unless some kind soul decided to run out and do that. So I'm a little worried when I open my car door, we'll have a flash flood right here in the parking lot.
You must be driving the old car tonight, right?
I've got the old beat-up white car tonight.
Well, Rick said it would be this way.
I know you did, and I just didn't listen, I guess.
See, now I washed my car this afternoon. I mean, it catches up to the best of us, doesn't it?
It does. But, you know, I said to somebody yesterday that we should all be washing our cars every day so that we get some rain out there for our farmer friends.
Well, we certainly had our cars washed this afternoon. 19/100ths of an inch of precipitation in just half an hour here in Boise. Murphy and Owyhee County had an inch. And by the way, you're still under the flash flood watch in Murphy. And that's up until 8 o'clock this evening. Be on the lookout for any creeks or streams that could have rising water. Just be careful there for the next few hours, all right? I believe that takes care of our announcements. As we look at the current temperature, it's 62 degrees in Boise. That's another thing. As the storm moved through about 4:30 this afternoon, wind gusts to 53 miles an hour officially, and the temperature dropped over 20 degrees in just a short period of time. Sunrise tomorrow morning, 6:04. We'll talk about the statistics here, and sunset at 9:25. Record high is 95 degrees in 1902. Now, the temperatures are in the 70s at the present time in Ontario and the Vail area, 78 degrees there. They mentioned to me, according to Kevin, that there could be some rain very soon in Ontario, and I wouldn't doubt that. And that will probably drop their temperature quite a bit there. Caldwell 63, Napa 63. You can see the area is hit by the storm because the temperature is much lower. Mountain Home, just a few booms around in the area, apparently from the storm that moved up here over the Snake River and stayed pretty much to the west of Mountain Home. But I believe they received just a trace out of that storm as they were on the eastern side. Twin Falls with the trace, 19/100ths of an inch in Boise, and no precipitation so far in the mountains. McCall and Sun Valley, you might be on the lookout for that cell, as that will be traveling up through the mountains for this evening. And this is the picture over the northwest. Most of the shower activity, northwest corner of Nevada, northeast corner of California, southeastern Oregon, and moving toward Idaho into western Montana. So that gives you the idea of the direction. 77 degrees was the high in Lewiston today, and they've had nearly an inch of rain. It was just a steady downpour of rain. 76 degrees in Pocatello with a thunder shower this afternoon, and 84 degrees for Salt Lake City. Across the nation, here's the national map. Very hot in Phoenix this afternoon. As of 3 o'clock, 101 degrees. 78 degrees in Albuquerque. 92 in St. Louis, and the same thing for Nashville. We have 86 degrees in New York City. Across the nation, some fairly heavy thunderstorms also in the southwest. Not just the northwest, but moving down into Texas. Petula, Texas had nearly 3 inches of rain in a half an hour. So you can imagine, a half an hour we had 19/100ths of an inch. It really came down in Texas. More rain also throughout the Ohio area, a couple of inches even in spots throughout the northeast section of the country. 84 degrees in Boise before the storm hit. Caldwell 82, 83 in Emmett. Morning lows down around 60, and look for a repeat of that tomorrow. 55 for Ontario for the low and 84 for the high. 70 degrees in McCall, and Twin Falls is 78 degrees. Looking at our latest satellite picture from 1 o'clock this afternoon. See this right through here? That's the storm. That's what moved through the Southwest Valley. Watch it move up. This is 1 o'clock. Here's 4 o'clock. And now it's heading into the mountains. There's a little breaking through here, but still we have more thunder shower activity to the south, and that means scattered showers throughout the valley. As to where those cells hit, really nobody knows, but hopefully it will not be just a drastic hit toward Boise, just as we had just about an hour ago. But most of that moving up west into Montana, and still some chances this evening. As it cools down for tonight, the thunderheads will start to break down, and we could just see some showers possibly later this evening scattered. Partly cloudy in the morning, and then a chance for this whole thing to rebuild for thunder showers in the afternoon tomorrow. So a chance of thunder showers, brief heavy rain and gusty winds for tonight. Winds that could be as much as 40 miles an hour if you're near a thunder shower cell. Low tonight about 60, and then partly cloudy tomorrow. All this building more for the afternoon again. A chance of some thunder showers, If that's the case, again, winds could be in excess of 30 miles an hour. For the Magic Valley tonight, it's scatter showers or thunder showers for tonight and tomorrow, high 79. And from McCall, watch out for that cell coming up your way. There could be some brief heavy rain with that. Low tonight, 49, high tomorrow, 73. The extended weather forecast, here it is. Thursday, a chance of afternoon thunder showers. Not so bad on Friday. And Saturday, we still have a chance of afternoon thunder showers. Getting up the temperatures, you'll see an 82 for Thursday. Low to mid-80s, Friday into Saturday. So, Dee, we are into that pattern, and look for some more of this, possibly even this evening. Now, Napa and Caldwell was not hit as hard, so maybe their turn is coming up.
We're getting used to it, though. We've had this now for a couple of weeks. So.
I'll get the windows on your car.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Rick.
Bye.
We're going to head over to the sports desk now. Mark Johnson is waiting to tell us that this is it. The Boise Hawks, they're ready to go.
Out of the gray area and into the black and the white.
And
Boise
hopefully
Hawks.
out of the red, right?
And out of the red. That's very good. You ought to be a poet.
I don't know about that.
Boise Hawks are a team now with real faces and real names and real everything. We're telling you about it next in the Real Sports. Well, the Boise Hawks are now officially a ball club. That's right. This afternoon, General Manager Mal Fitchman and Manager Darrell Thomas finished out their lineup card, or they nearly finished it out with the addition of 4 new ball players. And Boise's newest team begins practice tomorrow for their season opener June 16th up in Spokane. Jeff Tillman has the story.
How much work are you want done on that now?
In the words of General Manager Mal Fitchman, the tryouts are over. Following 3 days of showing off their best stuff to the eyes of the watchful coaches, baseball hopefuls could do nothing more than wait for a call.
These guys out here are wrapping up the last day of tryouts for the last 5 remaining spots on the Boise Hawk roster. Now, tomorrow morning, those with contracts will be out here on the field getting ready for the season opener.
All players under contract reported to the ballpark today. Tonight, they'll have a general meeting. Then tomorrow morning, the first full practice to ready for the season opener June 16th in Spokane. Those with contracts better show good work habits. Winning is a top priority, and a contract this early in the season doesn't guarantee a job.
If a player comes along that plays a position if somebody's under contract, it doesn't prevent us from signing somebody and releasing the other player. It's not a nice thing to say, but professional sports are a little bit different. And if competition really is the name of the game. If somebody comes along a little bit better, the other person's gone.
The heart and soul of any ball club is the pitching staff. Coach Joe Decker has auditioned several candidates, having to turn back several with great potentials, but filling the limited space with the best of the rest. Requirements for the job is a tough order to fill.
You look for a guy that's got some poise, some control, and has a good head about him. Knows how to pitch, set up hitters.
The bullpen will be a busy place come 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Jeff Tillman, News Center 7 Sports.
All right, here are the signings today with 2 pitchers, both lefties, Matt Haar and Bob Rosnikoff from St. Francis in New York. 2 catchers signed today, Chad.
KTVB Boise, Idaho's news channel. This is Idaho's most complete night report and a first look at tomorrow with Dave Eckert and A.K. Leinhardt, sports with Mark Johnson, and Idaho's weather reported by Rick Lance.
Good evening, everyone. Dave Eckert has the night off, and here's what's happening. Oliver North Secretary Fawn Hall tells of shredded and altered documents, meetings with the vice president, and money borrowed from North out of a Central American bank account. Hall appeared before the Iran-Contra committee today, surrounded by cameras and security guards. She told how North had instructed her to alter words and phrases in documents which would have revealed the diversion of Iran arms money to the Contras. And she described her part, shredding papers the night of November 21st.
I believe that Colonel North probably opened the 5-drawer safe and began to pull items from it, and I joined him in an effort so that he would not have to just wasting his time shredding. And as he pulled documents from each drawer and placed them on top of the shredder, I inserted them into the shredder. At the same time, I asked him if I could go ahead and shred the prof notes and phone logs, and he acknowledged that I should go ahead and do that, and I did so.
Hall also said North met several times with Vice President George Bush, then explained Bush and North worked closely monitoring the hostage situation in Lebanon. And Hall told the committee how she borrowed and paid back $60 from North. He gave her traveler's checks drawn on a Central American bank. However, she said it was still her policy not to ask questions. Well, some congressional leaders are asking questions tonight about President Reagan's actions at the economic summit in Venice. The president started out by lifting some of the U.S. sanctions on Japanese electronics, easing the sanctions because the Japanese have stopped selling some microchips at artificially low prices.
We have to recognize that there are people in Japan, like Prime Minister Nakasone, who have worked very hard to oppose the action that they had taken. And we think that they ought to be rewarded for their effort.
The reward satisfied no one, however. The Japanese say all sanctions should be removed, while congressional leaders had urged the president not to lift any of them. Boise's Micron Technology, a computer chip maker, was also hoping Mr. Reagan wouldn't lift the sanctions. However, a spokeswoman told News Center 7 the move comes as no surprise, since she also says the company's sales are continuing to show some improvement. Well, Boise School Board members were looking for improvement tonight. More specifically, they were comparing the national test scores by Boise students with others across the U.S. News Center 7's Jake Putnam reports Boise students held their own.
The mood of the Boise School Board was one of optimism. Last week, results of 3 national standardized tests came in. The tests are used to measure how Boise students are learning material taught to them. In short, it's the district's report card, an indicator how well they're doing.
I would say we're guardedly optimistic that the program is showing evidence of strength. We feel not complacent, but we do feel comfortable with those results.
Students in Boise outperformed the national average in virtually every category, but still remain close to last year's standards.
Youngsters performed well above national norms and above state norms in the proficiency test.
The test also revealed some startling new facts. Boise students are moving more often, yet are maintaining good grades. Math and science grades are also up, and the school board is pleased.
All things being equal, I think that the community in Boise can feel quite satisfied, again, based on this one standardized testing of the 3 tests, that there is a quality educational program available, grades K through 12, in the Boise city.
Jake Putnam, News Center 7.
A Boise woman escaped serious injury earlier today in an accident with a semi on Interstate 84. Police say Diane Garrett of Warsaw, Missouri, was making a lane change when her truck hit a small Toyota driven by Sue Mason. The truck's front tire literally climbed up the side of the small car, sending it into a spin and then flipping it into the median strip. Mason was taken to St. Alphonsus Hospital, where she was treated and released. Garrett was cited for an improper lane change. And